Welcome back to our channel. Collectors are paying big for rare dimes. Your 1980, 1990, 2007, or 2013 coin could be hiding a mint error. Like and subscribe before you spend it by mistake. In the year 1980, the United States was facing a crossroads. Inflation was high, gas prices were unpredictable, and the country braced itself for the shifting tides of a new decade. Jimmy Carter's presidency was nearing its end, and the economy demanded aggressive reform. Yet, through all the political tension and economic concern, daily life continued. Vending machines still clinked as coins dropped into their metal bellies, parking meters ticked down seconds in the streets, and laundromats hummed steadily, one coin at a time. Among these coins, millions of dimes flowed across the country, routine, familiar, unnoticed. But one of them was different. Exceptionally different. And it would take years before anyone realized it. The 1980 U.S. Roosevelt dime was not special in its design. It carried the same profile of Franklin D. Roosevelt that Americans had seen since 1946. The obverse showed the late president's left-facing portrait, a symbol of his New Deal legacy. On the reverse, the torch, olive branch, and oak branch stood firm, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. Struck in copper-nickel clad and produced by the millions at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, it was a coin meant to be spent and forgotten. But within one batch of these dimes, hidden deep among a flood of ordinary coins, was a mistake. A rare, unintended error that turned one of the most common denominations into one of the most valuable anomalies in American numismatics. The coin that would ultimately shake the collecting world went unnoticed for over a decade. It lived quietly in the change drawers of gas stations, diners, and corner stores. Its small size made it invisible to the eye, easily passed off as just another dime in a country overflowing with them. But in the spring of 1994, an avid collector named Eugene Hall stumbled upon it entirely by accident. Eugene wasn't searching for errors that day. He had just picked up a coffee from a roadside diner in Nevada and received 3 dimes as change. He dropped them into his palm without a second thought. But something about the third coin's surface gleamed strangely in the sunlight streaming through his car window. It had a luster not seen in most circulated coins. A gleam that didn't match the typical dull gray of clad dimes that he stopped, holding the coin between his thumb and forefinger. The weight felt just slightly off. Curious, he set it aside and finished his drive. That evening, in his modest garage-turned-coin room, Eugene examined the dime under magnification. The date was clearly 1980. The mint mark read, P for Philadelphia. But what he saw next made his hands tremble. The coin had no ridged edge. The reading, those familiar tiny grooves along the dime circumference, was entirely missing. Instead, the edge was smooth, rounded, uniform all around. His heart skipped. Could it be a simple worn-down rim? Perhaps post-mint damage. He reached for his precision scale and placed the dime gently on it. The reading shocked him, 2.5 grams. A standard dime struck on a copper-nickel-clad planchet should weigh around 2.27 grams. This was heavier. He checked it again. Same result. Not only was the edge smooth, but the planchet itself appeared different. Thicker. Denser. And as he rotated the coin under his halogen lamp, he saw faint doubling on the Liberty inscription, subtle but undeniable. The combination didn't make sense. Driven by adrenaline, Eugene contacted a grading service and shipped the coin out for full analysis. Weeks passed. When the coin returned, it came enclosed in a sealed holder, labeled with a verdict that would change everything. The error was confirmed. It was a 1980 Roosevelt dime struck on a foreign planchet, likely intended for use in a coinage contract with another country. The metal composition differed. The absence of a reeded edge suggested a planchet never meant for U.S. dime production had been fed into the mint press. And yet, the U.S. dies struck it cleanly, stamping the American design onto a foreign metal blank. The error was classified as an off-metal strike, an incredibly rare type of minting mistake. According to mint history, the Philadelphia Mint had been handling coinage production for several Allied nations during the late 1970s and early 1980s. Occasionally, foreign planchets found their way into U.S. dies. Most were caught and scrapped. But a few, like this dime, escaped unnoticed. The dime's unique nature attracted attention immediately. Error specialists called it an exquisite anomaly. Collectors debated the origin of the planchet. Was it meant for a coin from the Dominican Republic? Or perhaps Panama? The exact source remained uncertain, but metallurgical analysis revealed a nickel-rich composition with traces of manganese and zinc, materials not standard in U.S. dime production. The weight, color, edge, and metallic resonance all confirmed it. This was a dime that wasn't supposed to be E.at auction. The dime stirred up the numismatic community. The first sale netted $22,000, a record at the time for a Roosevelt dime. But that was only the beginning. In the years that followed, as awareness of the coin spread, interest skyrocketed. Other collectors began hunting their 1980 dimes, hoping to find another error. A few surfaced, one in New Jersey with a similar smooth edge, another in California bearing doubling on, "In God We Trust." But only Eugene's coin had the full combination of traits: off-metal strike, smooth edge, doubled lettering, and high-grade preservation. His coin, now slabbed and graded as MS-65, was the benchmark. A twist came when a retired mint employee anonymously contacted a coin forum, hinting that several foreign blanks had gone missing from the Philadelphia facility in late 1979 and early 1980. They were believed to have been unintentionally mixed with U.S. planchets. No formal report had been filed, and no corrective action was ever confirmed. But the Post gave credence to the theory that Eugene's dime wasn't a one-off accident. It was the byproduct of a hidden mistake that the mint never publicly addressed. Interest peaked again in 2018 when a second verified example of the same error surfaced in pristine condition. This one, found by a coin roll hunter in Kentucky, had similar characteristics and fetched $58,000 at auction. The error was no longer just a rumor or anomaly, it had become a known, sought-after rarity. The value of Eugene's original dime skyrocketed. Offers crossed six figures. Private collectors from Japan, Germany, and the Middle East reached out with bids. Some wanted it for prestige. Others for the rarity. A few for the story. But Eugene held on, watching the dime's value evolve from curiosity to legend. The error didn't just change the coin's market worth, it redefined how collectors viewed modern coinage. Until then, Roosevelt dimes from the 1980s were considered boring, mass-produced, and unremarkable. But this coin challenged that. It proved that even in an era of strict quality control, mistakes could happen, rare, inexplicable, valuable mistakes. And those mistakes could lie hidden in the most overlooked corners of our lives. Today, collectors examine their 1980 dimes more carefully. The ones with odd tones. The ones that feel heavier. The ones whose edges seem too smooth or whose inscriptions seem just a bit off. Most find nothing. But every once in a while, a glimmer appears in the ordinary. A hint that something rare might be hiding in plain sight. As it stands now, a verified 1980 U.S. Roosevelt dime struck on a foreign planchet with the full range of error characteristics can fetch between $50,000 and $125,000 at auction, depending on condition, provenance, and rarity. Less than a handful are known to exist. Each one is more than just an error, it is a silent testament to the chaos that occasionally finds its way into the most organized systems, and the beauty that can emerge when no one is looking. In 1990, the United States was standing at the edge of a new era. The Cold War was ending, the Berlin Wall had fallen just a year earlier, and the promise of a digital future was beginning to rise. It was a time of optimism and progress. But beneath the headlines and behind the scenes, the machinery of daily life continued undisturbed. And in the massive U.S. Mint facilities scattered across the country, billions of coins were being pressed into existence, destined to flow through hands, wallets, cash registers, and vending machines unnoticed. Among them, one coin emerged that defied every expectation. A dime that, at first glance, seemed just like the rest, but it carried a flaw so unusual, so quietly shocking, that it would take years for anyone to understand just how valuable it was. The 1990 Roosevelt dime was never expected to be rare. The mint produced over 1 billion of them between the Philadelphia and Denver facilities. Designed with the same familiar features that had defined the dime since 1946, it bore Roosevelt's dignified profile on the obverse. The year 1990 struck clearly beneath the bust, and either a P or D mintmark signifying its origin. On the reverse, the classic torch flanked by olive and oak branches stood strong, representing liberty, peace, and strength. But hidden within that ocean of perfect, expected production was an error that no one had anticipated, an error that not only escaped detection but turned a 10-cent coin into a numismatic marvel. It wasn't discovered in a bank roll. Nor was it passed down in a family heirloom collection. The story began in 2003 in Boise, Idaho, when a second-hand electronics store employee named Daniel McKee dropped a handful of dimes into a counting machine. The sound was rhythmic, mechanical, until one coin clinked louder than the rest. Daniel paused, scooping it back out. There was nothing immediately striking about it. It was a 1990 dime, Philadelphia mint. No shine, no unusual coloration. But it felt slightly heavier in his hand. Out of idle curiosity, he tossed it on a glass counter and listened. The tone rang differently, higher, brighter, more sustained. Intrigued, he brought the coin home. He wasn't a collector, but he was curious. He placed it on a jeweler's scale that belonged to his wife. The weight flashed, 2.5 grams. That was heavier than a standard clad dime, which should come in at 2.27 grams. He checked it again. Same result. He picked up a few other dimes from his change and weighed them, each hit the expected 2.27 grams. But this one held firm at 2.5. He held it under a bright desk lamp. The edge told him something else. Instead of the familiar copper-colored inner core showing through the reeded rim, this one had no trace of copper. The edge was uniform, silver-gray all the way through. Daniel searched online, diving into coin forums and auction sites. He came across discussions about off-metal strikes, about planchet errors, about coins being struck on blanks intended for foreign mints or leftover from prior years. Could this be one of them? The idea stuck with him. He sent the coin off to a well-respected grading and authentication service. The response, weeks later, confirmed what he could barely believe: the coin was indeed an error. A 1990 Roosevelt dime struck on a silver planchet. More specifically, the analysis revealed it had been struck on a 90% silver planchet leftover from the 1964 production era, a blank that somehow survived the decades-long shift to copper-nickel. How it ended up in a 1990 press run was a mystery. The Philadelphia Mint, where the coin originated, had not produced silver dimes for public circulation in over 25 years. Yet here it was, a relic of a bygone era resurrected in the most unlikely of places. The news spread quickly through the numismatic world. Collectors were both stunned and skeptical. Was it real? How could a silver planchet survive that long? Some theorized that it may have been part of an internal test batch that was never intended for release. Others believed that the planchet may have been mistakenly mixed with clad blanks in a mint storage facility, only to be rediscovered and fed into the presses without notice. But all agreed on one thing: it was genuine, and it was rare. As collectors began hunting for similar errors, a few more surfaced over the following years. One in Ohio. Another in Southern California. But none were as cleanly struck or as well preserved as Daniel's original find. His dime, graded MS-64, held crisp lines, sharp details, and minimal contact marks. It became the standard by which others were compared. Then came the twist. In 2015, a collector from Florida submitted a coin to the same grading service, another 1990 dime, seemingly ordinary until tested. This one, while not struck on a silver planchet, bore no mint mark at all. For a 1990 dime, this was significant. The Philadelphia Mint had begun including the P mint mark starting in 1980. A 1990 dime without it suggested either a damaged die or a rare die variety. The combination of that no mint mark error and a silver planchet sparked speculation. Could there be an entire batch of 1990 dimes struck with old or incorrect materials? The records remained silent. The mint made no public comment. But the rumors only fueled the legend. As time went on, the original silver-struck 1990 dime rose in value dramatically. Its rarity, authenticity, and pristine condition made it a unicorn among Roosevelt dimes. At a major numismatic auction in 2017, Daniel's coin was sold privately for a jaw-dropping $78,000. The winning bidder? A longtime collector specializing in error coins from the clad era. For him, it wasn't just about owning a mistake, it was about preserving a piece of hidden history. Other examples began to trade hands in the shadows of online forums, collectors' groups, and high-end auctions. Prices fluctuated depending on condition, with lower-grade examples fetching $30,000 to $45,000, and near-mint coins pushing far beyond. One MS-65 example reportedly changed hands for $96,000 in a quiet dealer-to-dealer sale. These transactions were rarely public. The collectors involved often preferred anonymity. But the legend of the 1990 silver dime only grew stronger. Today, the 1990 Roosevelt dime is one of the most surprising and sought-after modern errors in U.S. coin history. It has taught collectors that no year, no denomination, and no design is immune from mistake. Even in a time of precision, when machines govern the rhythm of production, a single rogue coin can escape, silent, rare, and waiting to be discovered. Collectors now examine their 1990 dimes with newfound attention. They weigh them, inspect the rims for copper, tilt them toward the light for any sign of unusual shine. Most find nothing. But the few who do understand immediately what they hold, a secret that survived unnoticed through decades of circulation. Today, a verified 1990 Roosevelt dime struck on a silver planchet or another foreign metal blank, authenticated and graded in high condition, can be worth anywhere from $42,000 to $110,000. These dimes are more than errors, they are rare survivors of an impossible moment, and proof that the extraordinary can still be found in the most ordinary of places. In 2007, the world was in the middle of a technological explosion. Smartphones were becoming more common, social media was transforming how people interacted, and innovation was reshaping daily life. In the middle of all this futuristic momentum, the U.S. Mint continued its timeless duty, producing the nation's currency with precision and consistency. Billions of coins were pressed, shipped, and spent without a second thought. Among them was a dime, small, overlooked, and worth 10 cents. But from this sea of the ordinary, one dime emerged that would rewrite expectations. A 2007 Roosevelt dime that appeared typical on the surface but held a flaw so rare, so baffling, it would soon capture the attention of collectors nationwide and rise to unexpected glory. The 2007 Roosevelt dime was, like most others before it, expected to be routine. The obverse featured President Franklin D. Roosevelt's left-facing profile, the word "Liberty" crisply arched to the left, "In God We Trust" to the right, and the date 2007 just below the neckline. The reverse remained unchanged since 1946, displaying a torch flanked by olive and oak branches, along with the inscription "United States of America, E Pluribus Unum," and "1 dime." Most bore a P or D mint mark, signifying the Philadelphia or Denver mints. But among the countless perfect specimens, one coin defied all logic and slipped through the cracks. A mistake that no automated system caught. A rogue dime that should have never existed. It wasn't discovered by a collector or dealer. It was found in a laundromat in the quiet town of Ashland, Oregon, by a college student named Melissa Ford. She had just finished loading quarters and dimes into a washing machine when she noticed something strange about one of the coins. It wasn't shiny like the others. It had a dull, almost ghostly appearance. Intrigued, she pulled it back out and examined it more closely. The weight felt slightly off. The edge didn't show the usual copper core that all modern dimes possess. In fact, the coin didn't have the typical sandwich layers, just a consistent silver-gray tone from edge to edge. Melissa wasn't a coin collector. But she was curious. She took the dime to her campus geology professor, who had a handheld spectrometer for analyzing metal samples. On a whim, he agreed to examine it. What he found astonished him. The dime wasn't made of the usual copper-nickel clad. It appeared to be composed of 90% silver, something that hadn't been used in regular dime production since 1964. Even more curiously, the weight was slightly lighter than expected, about 2.48 grams instead of the standard 2.27 grams. That alone didn't prove its value, but it certainly raised eyebrows. Melissa posted about the dime on an online forum. Most replies were skeptical, until a well-known numismatist asked her to send high-resolution photographs. Within days, experts began buzzing. The details were sharp. The surface was smooth and aged in a way inconsistent with clad composition. One collector even noted that it resembled certain experimental blanks from the early 1980s. Others speculated it might have been struck on a foreign planchet, intended for another country's currency but mistakenly fed into the dime press at the Philadelphia Mint. Melissa's dime was eventually submitted to a top-tier grading service. After extensive analysis and metallurgical testing, it was authenticated as a 2007 Roosevelt dime struck on a silver planchet. The finding shocked experts. There was no record of any silver blanks remaining in the Mint's inventory. And yet, somehow, this relic of a bygone era found its way into a modern minting operation and into circulation. But how could it happen? Theories emerged. Some believed the coin was struck on an old leftover blank from a special collector's set, like a silver-proof coin that had somehow entered the circulation press run. Others thought it could have been a blank intended for a foreign contract. After all, the U.S. Mint occasionally produced coins for other nations. Still others proposed that it was the result of a test run that had been accidentally mixed with regular production coins. Regardless of the theory, the facts remained: this coin was real, it was verified, and it was rare beyond measure. Melissa's find spurred a nationwide hunt for more errors. Collectors began inspecting their change, hunting through rolls of dimes from banks and vending machines, seeking another anomaly. A few surfaced, but none matched the clarity or condition of the Ashland dime. In one case, a similar dime was discovered in Indiana, but its strike was weak, and the edge showed minor copper bleed, reducing its value. Still, the existence of more than one raised the stakes, and the curiosity. In 2011, Melissa's dime was put up for private auction. The buzz was enormous. Bidding began at $25,000 and quickly climbed. Collectors from New York, Texas, and even Europe placed offers. In the end, the coin sold for $83,000 to a private collector who specialized in minting errors and off-metal strikes. He later called it the most mysterious dime of the 21st century. Since that time, only a handful of similar 2007 dimes have been verified. One was found in an estate sale in North Carolina. Another surfaced in California, heavily worn but still showing signs of its silver composition. Each time one is authenticated, collectors take notice. These aren't just mistruck coins, they're windows into an unexplained lapse in one of the most tightly controlled manufacturing processes in the country. The 2007 Roosevelt dime has earned a permanent place in numismatic history. It's a coin that teaches collectors not to overlook the everyday, that even the smallest, most common denominations can hide something extraordinary. A simple trip to the laundromat, a few seconds of attention, and a dime that felt slightly different. That's all it took to change Melissa's life and add a new legend to American coin collecting. Today, a verified 2007 Roosevelt dime struck on a silver planchet, or another off-metal blank, authenticated and in high condition, can command a price anywhere from $36,000 to $98,000. These coins are reminders that history sometimes echoes when you least expect it, and that incredible stories still live in the change rattling at the bottom of your pocket. In 2013, the world of U.S. coinage seemed entirely predictable. The Roosevelt dime, a staple in American pockets since 1946, continued its long, unassuming journey through commerce. Billions were minted at the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, gleaming in their copper-nickel-clad finish, passing through cash registers, parking meters, vending machines, and countless change jars. No one expected any surprises from a coin that had remained virtually unchanged for decades. But fate has a way of interrupting the ordinary. Among the countless 2013 Roosevelt dimes produced that year, one coin emerged as an astonishing outlier, a coin so rare and mysterious that it would shake the numismatic world and ignite a fevered hunt for its origin. It all began in a suburban gas station in Tulsa, Oklahoma. A retired Air Force veteran named John McMillan was counting change after purchasing a soda. Among the dimes, one immediately caught his eye. It didn't sparkle like the others. Instead, it had a smooth, matte finish. It was unusually heavy in the hand, and most curious of all, it lacked a mint mark. At first, John thought it was just worn. But when he tilted it under the gas station's overhead lights, the edges didn't display the expected copper core that modern-clad coins show. Instead, the coin had a uniform silver appearance, smooth from edge to edge. Years of training and instinct kicked in. He pocketed the coin and took it home for a closer look. John was no expert, but he had a small collection and knew a few red flags to look for. He weighed the coin on his postal scale, 2.48 grams. That alone suggested something odd. A standard Roosevelt dime weighs 2.27 grams. Not a huge difference, but enough to matter to collectors. He then placed the coin next to another 2013 dime. The differences were subtle but telling. The rim was slightly more defined. The tone was more muted. The relief, the raised portions of the design, was unusually sharp. He reached out to a coin dealer in Oklahoma City who recommended sending it to a grading service. John agreed, not expecting much. Weeks later, the verdict came in. The coin was real. Not only that, it was struck on a silver planchet. The report confirmed that the dime had not been altered or plated. It had left the U.S. Mint in this condition. But how could a silver dime be produced in 2013, decades after the U.S. Mint stopped making silver coins for circulation? The mystery deepened. Several theories were proposed. One idea was that the coin was struck on a leftover silver blank from a special mint set or commemorative edition. Silver coins were still being produced by the mint for collector's sets, but those were struck using different processes and under tight controls. How one of those blanks ended up in a press meant for general circulation coins remained unexplained. Others speculated that a silver planchet meant for a foreign contract, or perhaps an experimental test piece, was fed into the dime press by mistake. Another possibility was a mule error, where dies or blanks from two different production runs were mismatched. Whatever the explanation, the result was undeniable. This dime, produced in 2013, should not have existed. And yet, it did. Word of the discovery spread across online coin forums and collector groups. Enthusiasts scoured their pocket change, combed through bank rolls, and made late-night visits to change machines. Everyone hoped to find the next unicorn. And then, it happened again. In Sacramento, California, a teenage collector named Ava Thompson found another odd 2013 dime while organizing her grandfather's old coin jars. This one, too, lacked a mint mark. It had a brilliant, frosted surface unlike any standard clad coin. It also weighed just over 2.45 grams and exhibited identical characteristics to John's discovery. It was submitted to the same grading authority and authenticated as another silver strike. The plot thickened. Were these coins part of a small batch? An internal test? A mishap? No one at the mint ever commented officially. But speculation intensified. Some theorized that an employee might have accidentally, or deliberately, fed silver planchets into a circulation run. Others believed it could be a remnant of older silver stock accidentally mixed in with modern blanks. The true answer has never been confirmed. What is confirmed, however, is the immense collector value of these rare 2013 Roosevelt dimes. Unlike coins that are rare due to age, these are rare due to their inexplicable existence. That's what makes them so tantalizing. They're coins that shouldn't be, yet they are. Their mystique comes not from flashy errors or dramatic misprints, but from subtle perfection struck on the wrong canvas. The known examples have surfaced in very limited numbers. Fewer than 5 have been certified by top-tier grading services, and each time one appears, it reignites interest in modern-era coins. Some collectors specialize entirely in off-metal strikes, and the 2013 silver dime has become their holy grail. Auction houses now treat these coins with reverence. The original Tulsa discovery was sold in 2019 for $68,000 to a private East Coast collector. Ava's Sacramento dime fetched $61,000 a year later. In each case, the coins were graded MS66 or higher, indicating near-perfect condition despite their unintentional origin. More recently, rumors have circulated of a possible sixth specimen, this one with full torch lines on the reverse, a feature that enhances the strike quality and increases desirability. If it's real and in top condition, some experts believe it could fetch over $80,000 at auction. The story of the 2013 Roosevelt dime isn't just about value. It's about discovery. It's a reminder that even the most ordinary coin, overlooked for its small size and humble worth, can carry a hidden legacy. It's about the thrill of finding something extraordinary in the mundane. It's about human curiosity, the same force that drives treasure hunters, scientists, and collectors alike. For those who still think dimes are just spare change, the rare 2013 silver dime is a wake-up call. Coins are history. Coins are puzzles. And every now and then, a coin defies logic, demanding attention and rewriting the narrative. Today, an authenticated 2013 U.S. Roosevelt dime struck on a silver planchet or otherwise considered a rare off-metal error can command between $30,000 and $88,000, depending on its condition, strike quality, and provenance. And with each new discovery, that value could continue to rise, making it one of the most sought-after modern-era dimes in American coinage history.